You don't really know much about Halloween. Halloween, the barriers will be down between the real and the unreal. And the dead might be looking in. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red.
Halloween, the children.
You happen to know anything about this Cochran?
All I can tell you, mister, is watch out. He's watching you, friend, I guarantee you that.
Trick or treat, trick or treat.
Hey, Mr. Cochran, just what is the final process?
Fellas, I was just kidding.
Witchcraft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment.
Hey!
Where are they taking her?
They're taking her to the factory.
I want a mask. Can I have a mask?
Just what I had in mind for you, little buddy.
Why, Cochran? Why? Do I need a reason?
I've got nothing here to indicate there was ever a body at all.
Operator, this is an emergency.
I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever. A joke on the children. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it.
You've got to believe me!
They're going to kill us. All of us.
Stop it!
Halloween.
The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. Happy Halloween.
Stop it!
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the night no one comes home.
Season of the Witch.
Welcome to Slash, a horror movie podcast. In Season 1 of Slash, we will be covering every movie in the Halloween film franchise, starting with the original 1978 John Carpenter classic and ending with the 2022 Halloween Ends. Or does it? Slash is available everywhere podcasts can be found. You can follow Slash on Twitter at /horror. And you can find every episode of Slash at fansnotexperts.com//. Enjoy the show. And remember, it's fun to be scared. Imagine it's 1982, Friday night in October, and you're going with your friends to the movies. Now, think about it. Remember, this is 41 years ago. There's no internet, at least not to the masses. I think it existed then in like small areas in the government and maybe in some higher ed institutions. But to regular nerds like you and me, there was no internet. It wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even a word. I think maybe we're a couple of years away from war games and the idea of computers being networked, but you couldn't just go on IMDb to read about your movie. You didn't see dozens of blogs and articles every day, tweets and photos and every update and pictures from the set. And here's the trailer available on YouTube. You saw the movie trailer if maybe you went to a movie that showed it, or maybe you saw it on TV. But I'm guessing there had to have been at least some people in 1982 that went to the movies in October on a Friday night with their friends to see Halloween 3. And then when the movie started, they're like, okay, the movie goes on. They're like, what the hell? The movie is really in there, and they're saying, where the hell is Michael Myers? Why are they watching him on TV? what the hell am I watching? What the hell was that? There had to have been someone out there who went to see Halloween 3 expecting that somehow Michael Myers was still alive, somehow he didn't burn up in that hospital, and, he'd be back. This would be the continuation, right? I mean, maybe they were idiots, but they had to exist, right? Welcome to Slash, everybody. Or welcome back, hopefully, if you're a returning customer. Yes, today we are continuing the Halloween franchise by watching the distant cousin of the Halloween movies. They're all a family, but this is the one where this is the family member who is just so different, so very different from the rest of the family. Like, I think of Halloween, I was thinking about this yesterday, as the first 8 movies are kind of one story. Sort of, in a way. They try to be one story. Maybe it's not consistent, maybe it's not good. And I say the first 8, I should say 7 out of the first 8. Then there's the 2 zombies, and then there's the sequel trilogy that is technically coming after 1. But until then, 1 through 8 were the, original story, minus this movie. So I did a little research, tiny bit of research. And by that, I mean, I went to the Halloween 3 Wikipedia page. So take this, I'm taking this as fact. I didn't research the articles, but usually they're quoting articles for these movies, and by this point, you'd think they'd have everything correct, or at least as accurate as they would be. So I'm reading from the Wikipedia page. It says, when approached about creating a third Halloween film, original Halloween writers John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were reluctant to pledge commitment. Carpenter and Hill agreed to participate in the new project only if it was not a direct sequel to Halloween 2. Which meant Michael Myers would not be the focus of the film. The 2 producers, Erwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad, who had produced the first 2 films, gave Halloween 3, they greenlit it and gave Halloween 3 a budget of $2.5 million. I believe Halloween 2 also had a similar budget, but Halloween 3 still turned a profit. With a $2.5 million budget, it made almost $14.5 million, which is not nothing. I'm assuming it turned a profit. I'm not putting into account, I don't know, whatever budget they had in for advertising. But this is the worst performing Halloween film in the box office of all time. This movie was produced by Carpenter and Hill, but Hill didn't have anything to do with writing it, and John Carpenter is not credited with writing it. There's a whole bunch of things about in the trivia about it was originally written by someone named Nigel Kneale, and then Carpenter did a rewrite on it, and the exact quote from the IMDb trivia says, director Tommy Lee Wallace says in the documentary on the Blu-ray release that 60% of the screenplay they filmed is the work of Nigel Kneale. I said Carpenter did a rewrite, and Carpenter was surprised when Wallace did additional rewriting himself, rather than just accept the draft he had adapted from Kneale's original script. But when you watch the movie, it just says, written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. I think Kneale wanted his name taken off, and I don't know why. Maybe Carpenter just went uncredited because he's already a producer. I don't know. But I'm assuming Tommy Lee Wallace did a rewrite on it so that he could say written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. So I'm going to IMDb just to read off the actors' names because that's, to me, the easiest place to find them. But you know what I hate? It seems like IMDb will allow anything on there because I type in Halloween 3 and there's a 2019 Halloween 3. It's called Dakota Miller's Halloween 3. It's a fan-made film. and I've got to see that in my IMDb. No, thank you. So yes, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I don't remember, besides the mask, I think there's no witch in this movie. They talk about witchcraft. And, but like on the cover, like the logo, the famous kind of, well, famous, or the logo that's known for the poster and everything, it's like the scary looking monster on it. And is that a witch? I don't even know, but I don't remember seeing that in the movie either. The movie stars Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, Dan O'Herlihy. That's really it. I mean, and Michael Curry, is that the guy who runs the hotel? It's mostly Atkins and Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin, and Dan O'Herlihy as Conal Coughlin, the bad guy. He's the bad guy. Tom Atkins is the good guy. Stacey Nelkin is like the main good helper lady who is way too young for Tom Atkins, but I don't think she has a problem. The actress has a problem with older men. I'll just say that. We'll get there. But the quick IMDb synopsis of this movie says, kids all over America want silver shamrock masks for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice seeks to uncover a plot by silver shamrock owner Conal Cochran. That's I guess they doesn't want to give anything away. But for a 40-year-old movie, that's not a great synopsis. When this movie ended, and I'm going to go through the movie as I like to do, but when this movie ended, I thought to myself, specifically in the way it ended, I thought, this would have been a really good Twilight Zone episode, or a really good Tales from the Dark Side episode. Something condensed into 30 minutes, and something a little less quote unquote global or nationwide, because my goodness gracious, there is a certain level of stupidity in this movie that goes beyond the just the realm of I don't even like general knowledge. I'll just say right now, time zones. There it is. Time zones. Boom. The whole plan of this movie falls apart because there are time zones. But what is Halloween 3? If you've never seen it before, it's not really streaming anywhere right now that I could find for free. So I did go through Google and did rent it, just like I did for Halloween 2. Halloween I had already, so I could rewatch that one. But if you haven't seen this movie, it's weird because I say, as a standalone movie, it's still not great. There are some interesting things that happen in it. And if you just divorce yourself with it being part of the Halloween franchise, because I think that takes away from some of it in the long run. At the time, I think the idea was, even for Halloween 2, Carpenter wanted to make it more of an anthology where every Halloween was a different tale. And think about that. The Halloween ends and it takes place on Halloween. Michael Myers gets away and he could be out there anywhere. Halloween 2, a whole different story, but they had to, they did the sequel thing. They brought everyone back and they ran it back. When they quote unquote closed that chapter, that's when they thought, well, let's keep going with Halloween 3 and let's try something different. Now we can do the anthology that I always wanted to do. Wah, wah, wah. And then it didn't quite work. And then going forward, they're like, no, he's back. In fact, just to make sure Michael Myers is back, we're going to put his name in all the titles for the next 3 movies. Please, please, please know that Michael Myers is back. But he's not back in this movie, even though featured in this movie in a couple different ways. So, I'm just going to kind of go through the movie itself. When it starts, the music that you heard at the beginning of this episode, and believe me, this is not the music that is most known for Halloween 3, but this music already has that very Halloween-y John Carpenter sound. It's like, just right. It almost like I thought, are they taking the same notes and just kind of transpersing? I'm making up a word, moving them around. I don't think so, but it's, and in the beginning, I don't know what the point of that was. I guess because technology is ruling the world. It had a real old-fashioned color screen computer generated jack-o'-lantern. It's like, oh my God, there's another jack-o'-lantern. 3 movies in a row with a jack-o'-lantern, but this one's on a computer. What does it mean? I don't know what it means. But the movie starts with this dude just running. It's October 23rd, Saturday. So already this is the longest movie in the time span. It's actually the longest Halloween movie, I think, until Zombie takes over. It's at 98 minutes, and that is it's like 10, like the next couple are barely 90 minutes. I don't even think they're not 90 minutes. So those are going to feel really short. They're like long TV episodes nowadays. But it's October 23rd. This is also the first one that doesn't take place in the same night. I mean, the first 2 technically, even though we probably passed midnight at some point, but the first 2 take place all in one night. Right? Halloween. Well, no, I guess Halloween doesn't technically only take place in one night because we get the flashback. Then he steals the car but that might have been after midnight and then the next day. So, okay. So it took place over 2 days, but Halloween 2 is the same night. This one is a week because it's the 23rd and things don't end. It's over a week until we get to the following Sunday, the 31st. I was trying to think, when is the last time Halloween was on a Sunday? I don't know if this was technically right, but was it just 2021 where I knew I was giving out candy on a Sunday because I was watching the football as well? I don't know if that was the 31st or not, but it was close enough. So we see this dude running, and already he's got something in his pocket, this orange mask. You're like, what is that? What is that thing? He's running, he's frightened, and we get these like car chasing him, and you get a lot of these stingers throughout the whole movie when something bad's going to happen. He runs to this, well, actually, before he gets to this gas station, I think he's in like a junkyard, and this dude grabs him and starts choking him, but he pulls this block out from under a car, and the car wheels down and lightly smushes the guy. It didn't feel like very violent. It just kind of lightly crushes him, and he's dead. But there's this dude in this suit, and it reminded me kind of well, if you ever saw Fringe, the observers, just strange guys in suits, but they weren't evil. More like Men in Black, but again, they weren't evil. I mean, unless you count Will Smith. There was just like, you could tell. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, we'll spoil what they are. I don't want to spoil what they are yet. We know what they are, though, if you have seen this movie. And I was skeptical. I thought maybe that's what it was, but they definitely were very stiff the way they moved. And, he's choking this guy, trying to kill this guy who's running from them. And, but he lightly gets squeezed. We cut to this garage, and this guy inside is watching the news, and it talks about a news report that part of Stonehenge was stolen. You know, Stonehenge, I think Clark Griswold ran over part of it back in a European Vacation. He knocked it over because he could drive on Stonehenge, I guess. But, those huge, like, blocks where you have 2 stones standing upright and 1 stone on top of it. One of them was stolen. Now, that was a little drop, but why would they put that in this movie if it wasn't very stupidly important? And I say stupid because It's kind of stupid, but it turns out to be very important in the plot for some reason. And then we get, for the first time out of, I'm going to say 9,000 times, the Silver Shamrock song.
8 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock. 8 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Yes, kids, you too can own one of the big Halloween 3. That's right, 3 horrific masks to choose from. They're fun, they're frightening, and they glow in the dark.
That song, we're at 8 days till Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock. That song, for years, I have not seen this movie. This might only be the second time I've seen this movie all the way through. For years, though, that song and that visual has stuck with me, has stuck with just about everybody. That is the most famous thing out of this movie, besides maybe those 3 masks. This song is, kind of like the cult horror fans. I feel like this is the thing that they lashed on to first. And it's a commercial for Silver Shamrock. And I think it's like, get ready. I don't know if they did this yet until we see it in the bar, but it's got a creepy voice. God, kids, there's only 8 more days till Halloween. Get your masks and get ready to maybe it talked about the big giveaway. Get around your TV for 9 p.m. for the big giveaway. At the end of this commercial, it flashes, like the TV kind of shuts off or flashes away. And for a brief moment, now it says on IMDb, around the 7-minute mark, the Silver Shamrock commercial starts. At the end, it shows a child's face. The screen picture jumps. Then it quickly shows Michael Myers' face. And then the TV picture jumps again. I caught this. And I thought, am I crazy? Am I seeing this? It looked like this little white cartoon kind of version of Michael Myers' face. That if you weren't paying attention, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But apparently I'm not the only one who thought this. And it's not the last reference to Michael Myers in this. So that dude who was running ended up running into this garage. He passes out in the gas station with the guy, but he's like, they're coming. We cut over to a house, and I think as a kid, I thought this was Tom Skerritt. It's Tom Atkins. Tom Skerritt is much more handsome. Tom Atkins, but he's another mustachioed man. I think he's a drunkard doctor, because then the wives say like, oh, you smell like alcohol. You can't go to work now with, what are you going to, drunk doctor or something like that? But he's at his house. It's his ex-wife's house, and he's there. And it's the first time we see these masks. 2 of the kids have the Silver Shamrock masks because the mom got them, because apparently that's what you get. They're like the Cabbage Patch Kids of Halloween 3. Everyone has to have a Silver Shamrock mask. I'm thinking, there's only 3 of them. There's a witch, there's a skeleton, and there's a pumpkin. The skeleton mask is pretty sweet. In fact, the witch is probably the only one I don't love. But the fact that these 3 masks are so popular, like those are the things that have to be bought. Like if you were like 6 or 7, but most of these kids are all going to be copying each other, I guess is what I'm saying. That's what kids want. Like, don't you want to be, I don't know, something cool? And when I say cool, like something different with like, whoa, I wasn't suspecting that. So, not Tom Skerritt, Tom Atkins, Dr. Dan gets called into the hospital, and he actually gets called in to see that guy who passed out at the gas station. I can't think of the words. And when the guy gets wheeled in, the Silver Shamrock commercial comes on, and the guy's in a panic attack. He's like, they're going to kill us all. Later, this guy is lying in the hospital bed, and I wrote down, these guys are like Men in Black, and apparently the hospital lets him hold on to the mask. Oh, so he's in bed. He's holding on to the Halloween mask for whatever reason. Dr. Dan, Dr. Dan's walking down the hall at one point. He goes, I should have married you. And he spanked the nurse. And she giggled like, he, thank you for sexually harassing me. Dr. Dan, I don't know if Dr. Dan's a creep or if Tom Atkins is a creep or if Tommy Lee Wallace is a creep. But there's a moment in this movie where I'm like, it was so gratuitous, so unnecessary, and it just made me uncomfortable that it happened at all. And I'll get there. It's not till now, but I don't know. Maybe at the time as a kid, I would be like, oh my God, boobies. But, as an adult, I'm like, is this really happening? So these guys go into the hospital. This dude in a suit, another one of these strange looking dudes, goes in there and he takes his hand and he sticks it right in this guy's face, in his eye holes. And you just hear a crack, cracks the his face. It's almost like he broke his brain or something. And then he just leaves. It's like there's more people in this hospital, but no hospital in Halloween seems to have any sort of security that's any good at all. Then the guy goes out to his car and Dr. Dan's chasing him like, hey, you come back here. Walks right out, goes into the car, pours gasoline on himself, lights himself on fire, and then he explodes. And I'm like, wait, I don't think the car would explode like that, except I'm thinking about someone burning themselves and then the car explodes. When we, what these things really are, they're robots. I mean, come on, we know already. They're robots. We don't find out till later, but these freaking dudes are robots. Once you're real, maybe the robot is made to, when you pour a little gasoline on it, by the way, if it's a robot, you should just add a self-destruct button. But he blows himself up, and maybe that would happen if, you light a robot on fire. And this guy calls his wife and he's like, I can't take the kids. I think he said he was going to take them out. It's like, I can't take the kids. And she's like, what? She's basically the ex-wife in this movie is the definition. Like, I don't know if Tommy Lee Wallace had a divorce or someone had a divorce where they're like, I just want to shit on the ex-wife in this movie because she's just a nagging woman on the phone who won't listen. It's like Schwartz's mother from Christmas Story. What? Like you just hear this voice the whole time. Well, maybe you shouldn't come at all. Blah, 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 blah. The kids barely know who you are. And he's like, two people are dead here. I need to stick around. I'm sorry. Like, lady, put on the news. Something terrible happened. Then it's Sunday the 24th. By the next day, this car is still there in the parking lot, just smoldering. I thought, don't you think at this point the police would have taken it away? And then I wrote down, this pretty young thing comes in. That's what I wrote. This pretty young thing came in to ID the body. I don't think we say who she is yet, but it is the daughter of the guy who died. That is the main actress in this movie, played by Stacey Nelkin. Her character's name is Ellie. And that's it for Sunday. Then we jump all the way to Wednesday. So Monday and Tuesday, maybe Dan spend time with his kids. I don't know. But already it's Sunday. And the Dr. Dan really wants to know more about the dead killer. He's talking to this woman at the morgue. He's trying to figure out more because he's like, he crushed a guy's skull. That's what they said. And then, boom, we jump to Friday the 29th already. And this one, I wrote down, is this movie only 44 minutes long? I mean, what the hell? We're skipping days. What is going on in these days? But as I said, this is actually the longest of all the Halloween, original 8 Halloween. So he is at a bar, and that's when the TV gets turned to a station. There's something on. He's like, change the channel. He gets turned to a station, and we see Halloween. We see Michael Myers, and we see some Jamie Lee Curtis. And there you go. There's another reference to Michael Myers. And again, it's not the last one. And that's when the voice is like, all right, kids, get ready. We're going to be watching Halloween on our scary, Halloween night, followed at 9 o'clock. Now, so does that mean Halloween, it starts at 7? They're putting it on at 7. Kids are going to be out trick-or-treating. They put Halloween on at 7 p.m. The big giveaway from Silver Shamrock. 2 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 2 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. And that's when pretty young thing, she walks into the bar. She tracked down Dr. Dan. Oh, one of the nurses said you'd be here. And, I'm thinking, well, that's sad that, Dr. Dan's not here. So he's probably at the bar because he's an effing lush. And guess what? He's at the bar drinking by himself. She tells her, what her dad said, that the masks. He tells her, about, because she wanted to know more about her dad. And he tells her, your dad was holding on to this mask. And he kept saying, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us all. And she starts saying how, I've done little detective work myself. And he was supposed to pick up more masks, but he never did. And he's like, I think we should go to the company. There's this company called Silver Shamrock. They're the ones that work with him. Everything was fine until he had to go pick up those masks. And they're in Santa Mira, a factory in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, yeah, I'll go with you. I'm thinking, what? And you know what it is? This Dr. Dan is such an effing perv that he just wants this pretty Ellie Grimbridge. And he's like, sure, I'll go with you. He lies to his ex-wife. He's like, look, a conference came up. I don't know what the name of the motel is, but I got to go. It's a conference. Tell the kids I'm sorry. I'll be back to bring them trick-or-treating. So I'm not as like, oh, what a creep, because it is his ex-wife, right? He's divorced. So I am correct, right? He is divorced. So they drive off in a car, and my God, this car they're driving brings so much nostalgia to me because my grandparents had not. I think theirs was blue and gray, maybe. I don't know. My brother would know for sure. But these cars looked just like the same type of car that my grandparents had growing up. And I looked up what Santa Mira means, and I don't know. It doesn't seem very Irish. Google Translate says it means holy look. I don't know if that's right. That's Google Translate though. So they go into this town. Now, mind you, they saw each other in the hallway. I think he saw the girl come in, ID her dad in the hospital. He sees her in the hallway. They look at each other for a second. Then she comes to meet him at a bar and goes, can you tell me what happened with my dad? He's like, yeah, this happened with your dad. Okay. You want to go for a car ride with me and go see what's going on with this factory of toys? Okay, I'll do it. Like, what? It just seemed, excuse me, I hit the microphone. It just seems very much like, this needs to happen. You want to do it? Okay, I got nothing else to do. I'm a doctor, but I'll go with you for a few days in the middle of nowhere because you're hot. So they go to this town, and the town is crazy quiet. Like there's security cameras around on these light posts, and it's just like nobody's out in the street. Nowadays, seeing security cameras on lights aren't really a big deal, or on electrical poles or on buildings, no big deal. But they're showing it like, oh my God, someone's watching from this town. And the town is so quiet, like they drive by and people are looking out the window like, who is out there? And they're like, okay, listen, we need a plan. Like they automatically assume that a toy company is behind things. I mean, they are, but that seemed like quite a leap. Maybe because the dad was holding the mask, that's the only thing that you could say, okay, maybe we're onto something. Maybe it's worth looking into, or at least asking. Because maybe they didn't, at this point, they just wanted to learn more. They weren't quite thinking that there's no way they could have guessed what actually is going on. No one in the world could have guessed that. So they stopped at a gas station to get directions to a motel. The gas was $1.32 a gallon. Now I looked, and to be honest, in California, the gas was $1.31 a gallon in 2002. I didn't realize, at least according to this website. So this town is so Irish. Like everything is Shamrock this and Irish that, and like the motel is Irish. And the guy, I think running the motel, is like, "Oh, I'm Irish." That's my Irish impersonation. "Oh, thanks for coming. Oh, Conor Clucken, he's a great man, a great man." So they go to the motel, they run to the front office, and or while they're going into the motel, he runs into the front office to see the sign-in sheet, and he sees that the girl's dad did actually stay there. Okay, he was going to the factory. It's like, I guess local store owners go straight to toy factories. Now, at this point in the movie, we're 30 minutes in. Again, it's only, it's 98 minutes, but I'm going to just kind of average it. Say it's a 90-minute movie. So remember, I've talked about plot points in the past. So we're kind of at the plot point one where they have a plan. They're at a motel. We start meeting other characters. This family in an RV show up. They seem like they're right out of a comedy. In fact, the kid rides off from his mom yelling at him, flipping her off. I thought that was kind of funny. There's this other woman who shows up talking about, the damn factory. Yeah, they screwed up my order and I need to stay here in this dump because the order got all mixed up. So they're at the motel. They're planning to go figure out the factory. So that's kind of, we're at the half hour point. And that's where I'm seeing our first kind of plot point. So they go into the motel room, and he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. There's only one bed. I don't know where you want me to sleep. I could sleep on the floor, or I could sleep in the car." And she looks at him. Now, again, this is 1982. So at this time, and I'm just going by the actress. At this time, the actress, Stacey Nelkin, she's born in 59. So she's 79, she's 20. This is how I do the math. 80, 81, 82. She's 23 years old, okay? And Tom Atkins was born in 1935. So, okay, ready? We're going to do this together. Let's add 50 right away. Boom, 50, 85. Then we bring back 3 to 82. So he's 47, okay? He is twice her age. And she looks at him, and he's not like this stunning, male model looking like, he's in his 40s, but, maybe then guys look older in their 40s. But he's not a leading man looking dude. And she looks at him and says, "Where do you want to sleep?" And then he pounces upon her, and I believe they make love, because I just was like, that was fast. And that is not the last time. They are Humpty Dumpty through many moments in this movie. So we cut outside, and it's 6 p.m. We get this announcement throughout the town. 6 p.m., your curfew. Please finish up your business and head indoors for the night. And the cameras are watching every part of town. They're looking for curfew breakers, which there are plenty of curfew breakers. And apparently nothing comes of it because Dan is off at the liquor store because he loves to drink. And he bumps into a wino out of nowhere that, of course, has something to say, because it just works out that the one like homeless wino. I wrote down wino, the homeless drunk guy. I don't know, whatever you want to say, hobo. It's a very stereotypical, kind of drunk homeless guy. He badmouths Cochran. He's like, he turned this whole town into a ghost town. He brought all these people in from out to work at his factory. Well, he didn't bring them. He created them. We'll talk about. You already mentioned that. And he's like, you know what? This is going to be the last Halloween for that damn factory. He wants to burn it down. He's like, I've heard stories. And Dan's like, wait, what have you heard? But he doesn't tell any stories. I think maybe they're like, curfew. He goes off. By the way, Dan has his bottle of whiskey, of whatever alcohol in a bag. And the guy's like, can I have a sip? I don't have any diseases. He's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Gives him a sip. I'm like, gross. Just at least don't have it touch your lips. Hello? You know? And then Dan goes off and we follow this drunk guy who now has his own bottle. I don't know where that came from, but we're following him. And, you know, I'm thinking, okay, movie grammar, we're following him. That means something bad is about to happen. And those guys show up in the suits. I don't know why, but they rip his head off. We get a nice little blood squirt out of the neck. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that was cool. I don't know why it happened, but we cut back to the motel, and Marge Gutman, that's the woman, she's talking to Ellie. She's like, oh, you guys are here to pick up orders too? And she mentions how the product, you know, the product's not that great. It's losing quality. My daughter was throwing it up against the wall, mind you, but the trademark came off. There's this little, on every mask, there's this little plastic pin type tag says Silver Shamrock and it has the Shamrock on it. And it's on every mask to remind people that it is a Silver Shamrock mask. Now we follow her into her room. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, something's about to happen. She drops the tag on the floor. And we see what looks like some sort of computer chip on the other side. Now, she doesn't notice it right away. She gets into bed and she takes a book out. And I'm thinking, that is amazing. She's in bed with a book. Like, oh, what a wonderful, wonderful way to spend an evening. So Dan goes back to the phone, calls his lady friend in the morgue. And she's like, you know, they must have mixed something up because all we have is plastic and metal shavings. We have the wrong thing. There's no body parts. There's nothing. And okay, this is where I wrote, I bet those creepy dudes are robots. I mean, I don't think they were much hiding anything. So Dan goes back to his room. Ellie is in a teddy and she is ready to bang Dan. And here we go. This is the creepy part. Now, I wrote down, isn't she a little young for Dan? Or isn't he a little old for him? In fact, later he says, how old are you? After they've had coitus multiple times, she goes, I'm older than I look. Now, was that a clue? No. This is still the Ellie. So I'm thinking to myself, isn't he a little old for her? But maybe not. Because Stacey Nelkin, as a teenager, dated a much older, creepy Woody Allen. And I wrote, somewhere in this, that I read somewhere that this Stacey Nelkin still to this day defends Woody Allen against like Ronan Farrow and all his allegations. She's on Woody Allen's side. So I guess they had a wonderful relationship together. And, you know, the fact that she was a teenager and he was probably in his 30s, totally cool. Cool. So they're like, you got to kiss Tom Atkins. She's like, that's cool. I've done worse. But the creepy part, my friend, is the sex in bed. Like we start to see him pull her nightie off, and he starts like sucking on her boobie. I'm like, what the hell? Did I just see that? Did he actually is he actually kissing her, you know, boobie? So there's a quote from her. I don't know if this is from her book. There was no nipple clause. There was a no nipple clause in my contract. So they could shoot my breast, but they could not shoot my nipple. Poor Tom Atkins and Tommy Lee Wallace. Have to shoot around this, have to cover it up. These things are so technical. Now, I'm assuming she's being sarcastic, like, well, we got to show that boobie, so I guess you're going to have to just cover the nipple with your mouth. Okay, I'll do it. What the hell? And then this is in the trivia. It says, this is the second John Carpenter produced movie, the first being The Fog in 1980, where Tom Atkins plays a character who winds up having a sexual relationship with a much younger woman who makes the first move on him. So Tom Atkins is like, look, John, I'll come back to do another movie with you. That's fine. But you know what I need, right? You know what I need in the script, right? make it happen, and you've got Tom Atkins back in your movie. I don't know. I don't know anything about Tom Atkins. I'm not saying anything about him being creepy, but the whole thing was a little creepy deepy, if you're asking me. And since you're listening to my podcast, I'm telling you, that's creepy deepy. So by the next morning, they're ready to go at it again. I mean, she's ready to climb on top of him. And that's when he says, wait, how old are you? It's like, dude, you ask now? But we hear the Silver Shamrock again and again. They're just knocking. It's not very subtle. It's almost like they're letting you know. And it kind of working as a countdown, like, there's only so many days left. Get ready for the big giveaway. Actually, it's not the next morning yet, because the woman is alone ready for bed. And when she notices that computer chip on the Silver Shamrock button, she takes a hairpin out, presses it. And, I almost shit myself, actually, because it made me jump. A laser shot out of the button into her mouth. They hear something in the next room, but they're way too sexed up to look for it at all. We see the woman's face, and it is just torn asunder. I mean, it is ripped apart, and a giant bug crawls out of it. And I thought, can lasers do that? Can they make bugs crawl out of your face? And I'm going to tell you, in this movie, they can do that and so much more. So the next day, it's still not the next day. I think it's still nighttime. Can I tell you something? Let me be perfectly honest with you. I watched this yesterday. By the time I finished, it was like 11:30. I said, I can't. I got to go to bed. I am tired. And now I'm talking, and it's like almost 11 o'clock the next night. So I'm going off notes, and I'm going off memory, and the fact that this movie is only memorable for some unmemorable things, like creepy booby moments, a song that is catchy because it's creepy, and other things that we will get to. We're going to get there. Gosh darn it. I apologize for the language. So she's dead next door. They, out of nowhere, instead of paramedics showing up, all these, like, it's almost like Coral Cochran has his own full-grown white version of Oompa Loompas. They're not orange. They don't sing, but they show up and they take care of business like the Oompa Loompas do for Wonka. So these dudes show up. They are they look like they're supposed to be like nurses or EMTs. They're all dressed in white. Tom gets up. We do get an ass shot of Tom Atkins. He's looking out there. He's like, what's going on? And he goes to ask what they're doing. And they're like, he's like, I'm a doctor. But they're like, don't worry about it. And then the man comes out who runs the place. He's like, oh, don't worry. Mr. Cochran will take care of it. And a car pulls up, and there's Mr. Cochran now. And he gets out, and he's like, oh, don't worry. She'll get the best treatment. We're taking her to the factory. Like, that's the best treatment. And maybe it is. Maybe the factory has a clinic inside. I don't know. But they took her there. And before they leave, he goes, what happened? And someone said, it was a misfire. They don't say it very, very quietly. So Tom heard it all. And they're like, I mean, that's an amazing toy factory. And shockingly, Tom and Ellie don't have, Tom, I keep calling him Tom. Dan, the character, and Ellie don't have sex again. It's now Saturday the 30th. He calls over to the morgue again, and she's like, yeah, there's no proof of any body being in there. Like, this is crazy. He asks her, can you look up Connell Cochran? And she's like, sure, but you gotta owe me dinner. Like, this dude is a whore, and apparently all these women want to be with him. I don't see it. And of course, in that room, this shows a little bug. Not a bug that crawled out of a woman's face, but a little microphone. So the room is bugged. They know now that Dan is watching them. But hey, it's time to go to the Silver Shamrock factory. So they go to Silver Shamrock, and they're talking to these people. Now, these are human people. These aren't the crazy robots. These are the locals in town. They work there, And it seems like there's a lot of them as well. I guess they have to keep up some sort of appearance of normalcy. So when they get there, the woman's like, oh, yeah, yes, I remember him. He came here. And didn't he drive a green car? Didn't someone say green station wagon, right? Like, how would they know that? But they're like, oh, yeah, he picked up his order and everything seemed fine on the up and up. Then we see that family show up. And this dude, his name is Buddy something, but he reminds me of Buddy Garrity from Friday Night Lights, so that's what I'm going to call him. He shows up with his family, and I realize, oh, he's a store owner who sells masks too. And it turns out this guy, he sold the most masks in the entire country. And Cochran's all excited. He's going to give, he promises Mr. Gutman. He promises them that Miss Gutman will be fine. And he tells them, don't worry about your order. We're going to give you a replacement order and we'll make it for free. So he wants these masks to get out there no matter what. But at the same time, like, does he even know? How would he know who they are to give them a replacement order? So maybe that's his way of being like, I'm on to you, I'm bullshitting you, or it's just bad writing. I'm not sure. But he brings them all down to see how the masks are made. And I love this stuff. I used to watch Face Off on Sci-Fi, and they talk about how, I learned through that show that they make the sculpture in clay. Then they pour cement over the clay to make I can't think of what it's called, but they make a thing that then you pour latex in to make the mask. And they showed kind of like how they were doing it there in 1982. And it's not really any different, or I don't think it doesn't seem any different than what they do today to make a latex mask. And I just love that craftsmanship behind it. And I just love that we got to see kind of that stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. They go through the mask factory. They go through this like almost museum where it shows all these old toys he used to make. And the guy, Buddy's like, you don't know about Cochran? He's like, the guy made all the best practical jokes. And then, he changed into toys. But if it was a practical joke, he definitely made it. Like the fake poop and all that kind of stuff like that. That was all him. So they buy all the masks, looks like being about to be shipped out. And the son's like, I want a mask. And he's like, can I have this one? And Cochran's like, no. We'll give you this one. Hasn't been through final processing. I'll give you this one. You can have a brand new one in a bag with a tag already on it. Buddy asks him, so Cochran, what is final processing? And Cochran's very evasive. He's like, oh, it's a little of this, a little of that. He gets a stamp of approval. That's the thing. And some trade secrets. And he's like, well, can we see them? He goes, well, I can't bring you in there because it involves some chemicals that are very dangerous to breathe in. He's like, okay. At this point, Dan notices all the creepy guys. And he's like, hey, Ellie, I don't know what's going on here, but those guys, this look just like the guy that was at the hospital that killed your dad. And they're like, let's get out of here. But then she notices her father's car is still there. She's like, what is that? She goes up to it, and the creepy guys stand in front of it and don't let her get near it. But they still let them leave, which is kind of weird. So they go back to the house, and he's like, you pack and get ready to leave. I'll go call the police. Now, why don't you stick together? Because it's dumb and they need to be separated. So he goes to call the police, but the operator, he can't make a connection. Because again, Cochran owns the town, so they turned off the phones. He goes back to the room. Shockingly, the door is open, and guess what? She's gone. Who could have seen that coming? I'm pretty sure at this point, the Ellie we know, we don't see again. I'm assuming there are two Ellies, right? I think. That's how dumb this movie is. It makes you think, well, wait, it couldn't have been this the whole time. Then that wouldn't have made any sense. So now he looks out the window, and the Shamrock Boys, that's what I'm calling these guys. I call them the Shamrock Boys. They look like a boy band all standing there. They're all standing outside, running after him. He runs and hides and tries to call a payphone to get home, tries to get through. now this is kind of when the chase goes on. It's like, okay, they have her. He now sneaks back to the factory to break after her. He goes to the making a mask room. He finds this freaky old lady that then he realizes is a robot. Now she has human hands, and obviously it's a woman in a mask, but it's a robot. A dude grabs him. He fights him, punches the guy through his stomach. Another robot, yellow goo comes out of him, and you realize they're all robots. This is when 2 other guys grab him. He's caught. Now we're at the hour and 2 mark. So we're at the hour mark, which I talk about plot points. Plot point 2 in the storytelling. We're at the hour mark. They are at the factory. They are caught. And Cochran talks about it. He goes, oh, he explains like, oh, the components actually go back quite a ways. It's the mask, the skin. That's what really it was tough to get to work. And one of the guys sneezes. He goes, they're quite lifelike. And he talks about the lady. He's like, oh, she was great. She was an antique, the lady robot that was sewing or something. And I think he said she was made in the 1700s, which is crazy. And he's like, well, it's going to be Halloween morning very soon. I'm going to be very busy, very, very busy. Sounds downright giddy. And then we come, and it's now Sunday, the 31st. It's finally Halloween. And Cochran kind of goes through his entire evil explanation about everything. And I think at this point, he's the only human there. Everyone else is a robot. They go down into this giant basement lair, and all these robots are on computers, and there's a giant rock there that they're scraping off of. And then you realize that's Stonehenge. The thing, remember the TV reporting at the beginning, that part of Stonehenge was stolen? Well, yes, it was stolen by Cochran and brought to Santa Mira. Is that what it's called, right? Santa Mira, California, to his toy factory so that they could scrape off pieces of it because it has a power, a force. You could just put a small particle into something, and he shows the mask button with the chips. Then he goes, it can really do something. So he didn't say that, but they take part of effing Stonehenge, scrape it off, and put it in a chip. I don't know what the chip does, but it enhances the power, I guess, that the Stonehenge scrapings have. I don't know. Then he shows a video of Ellie tied to a table. And he's like, she's right in there. Now he wants... Oh, he's like, now I want to show you a demonstration of what's going to happen. And this is where we get the... And for some reason, this is where my mind... Whenever I see this clip, I thought this was the end of the movie. I thought, oh, this is the big bad ending where we're going to see that the plan worked and millions of kids are, killed. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But it isn't. The kind of the famous photos and even the image used for this episode with the kid in the mask is from this upcoming scene. So Buddy and his family are brought into a test room. They're just brought in quietly. It looks kind of like a living room. And the kid's there, and they're locked in, and the dad's like, hey, I don't know, Cochran just wants our opinion on some Halloween commercials, so I figured we'd do that, and we'll help him out. The commercial comes on. It's time for the big giveaway. He tells the kid to put his mask on. The kid does, and the mother's laughing. And then the lights, it's blinking. Silver Shamrock. And it's blinking and blinking. And the kid starts grabbing his head. And then he keels over. And he's dead. They killed a child. Michael Myers wouldn't kill a kid. But you get to Halloween 3, you get rid of Michael Myers, deal's off. We are killing children. And he keels over. Now, remember when the woman died, a bug came out of her mouth? Well, when this kid keels over, so many bugs. And not just bugs, snakes. Snakes are coming out of him. Now, how is that possible? I think I know the answer, and I think it's witchcraft, right? So these snakes, the mom passes out, the dad freaks out and tries to leave. Then the snakes attack him, and they attack the mom. And I think the entire family gets killed by snakes, and the kid's already dead because the snakes all came out of his face. So that's crazy. And goddamn it, I always knew the Stonehenge was evil, but nobody's listened to me. Nobody. But again, why? I wrote down why. Why are we doing this? Why is this happening? Then we get this montage of kids all over the country wearing those masks. The music is playing. It's almost time. And it's almost time, 9:00. There's actually silver Shamrock vans all over the country driving down streets telling kids, get home, hurry home for the big giveaway, get home, get in front of your television. And this is where their plan falls apart. So at a certain point, it's like, 7:30, 7:45, 8:00 in California. At some point, I know it's like we have an hour. Dan has an hour, I think. So that means it's 11:00 in New York. What is going on? We see all over the country. We see New York. So are those kids already dead? Does the movie play later? What is going on? You know what's going on? Lack of logic. They want you to kind of ignore this. It's such an annoying plot. If you just said we're going to kill every kid on the West Coast, boom, that would have just, oops, I almost knocked something over. That would have solved all that. We're going to kill every child on the West Coast, or we're doing it in the East Coast, and before, and by the time they know, it's going to be too late, and then we'll kill everyone on the West Coast. But I think even though there's no, it's not quite as easy to talk to the world as it is today, I still think they would have been able to, if it started happening on the East Coast at 9:00, they could have been like, guys, don't air this commercial anywhere. But they're like, get ready for the big giveaway at 9:00. And it also makes it seem like it's all on one channel, which again, makes the most logic, except logic isn't. That's at the end, and logic isn't quite taken into consideration. So again, yeah, it just make it a little smaller, and it would have, it probably would have made a little more sense. So the morgue lady actually calls the motel. I guess the line doesn't connect, or she's trying to get to Dan. Dan, I guess, must have given her the number. The line doesn't connect, and she's playing with components. She's looking at it, and then you look in the background, one of the Shamrock boys are there, the Shamrock robots, and she looks at these things. She goes, oh my God. Now, I don't know what she figured out, because I don't know how she would have figured it out just looking at these components. She was like, oh my God, this must have been a robot man. Like, what is she talking about? How would she have thought that? But it doesn't matter, because the dude comes in, holds her down, takes a drill, and drills her in the head. And I'm thinking, I at this point, I was trying to contrast the body count to the previous movies, or at least I try to count them. And I think we're at 7 for this movie. So we got the dude at the beginning, right? Then we got, we can't trust the guy in the car. We can't use the guy in the car because he's not a robot. So we have the dude at the beginning. Then we have the drunk fella. That's 2. Then we have Mrs. Garrity. That's 3. Then we have the mother, son, and the kid. That's 4, 5, and 6. And this woman, morgue woman. It would be cool if her name was Maud. It would call her Morgue Maud. But that's number 7. I don't know why she was killed. I don't know what she was going to uncover. She would have just been like, there's robot pieces in here, but no one would have believed her. So now we have Tom. He's tied up. They took him now, and they tied him up and put one of the masks on him, the skull mask. And they're making him watch the TV. Now, why didn't they just do this? Why did they make him wait? That's dumb. Just kill him right then and there. Put the commercial on, do another test, do it to him. boom, over. But no, they make him sit and suffer. And this is where he tells more of his story. And he talks about, like, now I got a little lost here. But he's like, the guy's like, I thought you were the king of the practical jokes. He's like, well, the joke is on the children. He talks about the truth about Halloween. He brings up Samhain. He says Samhain, but is that the same as Sam Hain? He talks about witchcraft and how they, it's like, this is the line, the day between the living and the dead. And I guess this is where the title comes in. So he's part of this Irish witchcrafting cult, I suppose. And he says the planets are alignment and it's time to, I guess it's time to reset things and rid the planet of kids watching TV. Because think of, unless they're thinking so many kids, so many snakes and bugs that will kill the other people, I guess. Because again, what about all the college kids that aren't going to be watching TV, that are hanging out? They're not wearing the mask. They're trying to hang out with their friends and get drunk and get laid. What about all the old people who are alone? Like, there are so many people that aren't going to die. Yes, it will kill many, many children, and I'm sure that's wonderful for Cochrane. But it's not like it's a world-ending plan. And again, with time zones, it doesn't make any effing sense. So, okay, Tom at this point has 70 minutes to escape and save the world. So it's 7:50. Now, this is crazy. He's sitting there, tied behind his back, his hand behind his back, with a mask on. He leans up a little bit. He kicks in the TV. Oh, by the way, Halloween was on there too. So when Cochrane was telling part of his tale, this is the third time the Michael Myers references. It's playing good scary music because it's good scary music from the original Halloween. So Cochrane, Dan the doc is sitting in the chair. Cochrane leaves. Obviously they leave him alone because that's what you do. You leave a guy alone so he can escape. The one of the robots is watching him. The robot looks away. Dan kicks in the TV. He's still looking away. Dan uses part of the TV to cut the part of his bindings so he can escape. He can be untied. I don't know how he did that, but great. Takes the mask off. He's still not fully unbound. Uses the mask. He looks up at the camera before the robot guy turns back. His arms are still bound. He takes the mask and he flicks it, and it goes up and it lands perfectly on the camera, blocking the view. But again, if you saw that, wouldn't you be like, oh, something's up? The guy turns back and he looks at it and he's like, oh, and he goes to explain something to Cochrane about like there's a malfunction, but he doesn't, like, he waits because Cochrane's talking to someone about the TV channel and getting it to air. I don't know, talking about the commercial. But of course, while that's happening, he's able to crawl through an air duct and do some John McClane work. He crawls right through and gets right to the roof. And I thought, oh man, they're going to get him. They're going to get him pretty easy. But he makes it to the roof, but he breaks back in. Okay. And when he breaks back in, you know what I noticed? There are a ton of masks there, a ton of boxes, a ton of items, products that didn't get shipped. After today, okay, your business is over. Silver Shamrock is over. Again, there'll be plenty of people still alive. And all you would have done is killed a bunch of people. Now, maybe you're a witch of some sort, so you would have flown away or disappeared, even though you kind of do. I don't know where exactly you would have, like, what the plan was after, on November 1st. Okay, now what? We did it. We killed all those children. Now, oh no, we're out of business. Now what do we do? Boo. So, you know what I mean? It really doesn't make any sense. So Dan finally gets to a phone and he calls his ex-wife. And wouldn't you know it, his ex-wife won't shut the hell up. She's like blah, 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 babbling for him. He goes, listen, you got to get rid of the masks. Get rid of the masks. He goes, what are you, drunk? I'm not listening to you anymore. And he hangs up. She hangs up on him. So this means that his children are now going to die, more than likely, right? Unless they can figure out a way to stop him. It has to be. So actually what I wrote down was a little meaner than that. I said, because I was so angry at her, I said, now I hope their children collapse right in front of her, and she remembers the last thing Dan told her was to take the masks off while snakes are pouring out of her son's eyes and then bite her to death. Okay, maybe that's a little extreme, but and again, I think that's more on the writing than on the character. They made that character so dumb and so unlikable that it back then you're like, oh, that bitch, but now you're like, really? That's a little silly. So he tries to dial another number, and I don't remember who the hell he called or if he called anyone. He goes and I don't even know who he called, because the next thing he does is he goes and finds Ellie. He breaks her out. He got her pretty easily, maybe too easily. And they run and they're about to get out. But when they try to sneak out, it's 8:25 at this point. And I wrote, holy shit, because yes, they took a rolling shelf of masks and they rolled it along, hiding behind it like they're in Scooby-Doo. Like I thought I was going to hear do as they ran off. They're literally skulking. Now, Dan is hiding behind a box. He finds one of those chips and he's like, I know what I'll do. While everyone is right there, he sneaks up in front of all of them. They're all right there, and he types in a bunch of things. He presses a bunch of buttons. I don't know how he does this, but the commercial starts playing on all the TVs. So he grabs the box, runs upstairs, throws the buttons over the ledge, right? Then they hit the ground, the commercial's going, the buttons go cuckoo bananas, all the robots short circuit and die, and it starts it's like this light starts spinning around them, and like the robots are all gone, the light starts spinning. The Stonehenge rock now starts getting angry. Cochran, the bad guy, looks up at them with like a bravo look, gives them a little golf clap as they're looking down on him, because they ran upstairs to throw the buttons on everybody. Then a beam of light shoots out of Stonehenge into Cochran, and he disappears, I guess. Now Stonehenge starts exploding and the factory is in flames, and they escape. They get out of there. So boom, they got rid of all those masks. They destroyed the factory. The town folks, all their lives, everyone who works there, their lives are ruined. And I wrote down body count 8, but eight would be Cochran's 8. Because I'm not counting, like on this one website, they counted every robot. I'm not counting any of the robots. So 8 people. Now they're back in their car and they're getting the hell out of town. So they're driving off, and while they're driving, all of a sudden, Ellie's a robot now. Yep, Ellie's a robot now. She attacks Dan, the car crashes. She gets after him, starts choking him. Then he clubs her with a tire iron, and her arm pops off, and then he smashes her head off. And then we see her head. Now, they actually took this. They put the actress in the ground with her head, and her head's blinking, and the body's lying there. The body gets up, starts to attack him. Then the friggin' arm by itself tries to choke him. Like, they just don't let it end. And, all of a sudden there's just a headless Ellie. And I'm thinking to myself, would he have sex with that Ellie still? So my question is Ellie dead? Is the real Ellie dead in the factory? Or was Ellie always a robot? It doesn't make any sense that Ellie was already a robot. But to make a robot so quickly, now I guess they could have done it the moment they saw her, they could have started. But I guess he said it's quite easy to do. It's just perfecting how to do it. So that's his way of saying, okay, we can make a robot pretty quickly. So my guess is Ellie was real through all the lovemaking, through the booby sucking, through the no nipple clause, because it was his daughter, unless he's a toy maker and that's her Pinocchio. No. So Ellie, the real Ellie, died in the factory fire, and this is a robot. So he finally gets rid of the robot, gets back in the car that's smashed up, and drives. No, at this point he runs back to the gas station. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second here. The gas station at the beginning drove to the nearest hospital. The nearest hospital is where Dan worked. Then Dan and Ellie said, we need to go to this middle of nowhere town to get the masks. So they drive all the way to Santa Mira. Now you're telling me, now that I think about it, at the beginning, the guy's running from Santa Mira, we find out. And now Dan ran from Santa Mira. But you know what? I don't know how far. Like maybe the guy did have his car and they confiscated it. And I don't know how far Dan and Ellie drove until they were near the gas station. So, okay, maybe it's not a logistical issue, but I think it is. So he gets right back to the same gas station with the same guy working there. The guy's like, you remember me? And then he runs into the car, runs in there, calls, I don't know who the hell he calls. Does he call the TV station? The one airing this like old movie, well, 5-year-old, 3-year-old movie all over the country? Is it on one station? He's calling the TV station. He's like, you need to get this off the air. You need to get this commercial off the air. I'm telling you right now, it's a matter of life and death. You need to get this off the air. Again, did he call the FCC? I don't know what is going on here. Then a car pulls up with all these kids in those masks. And, you know, the kid walks up to the TV and that ding, 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 ding. And you're thinking, oh my God, here it goes. And 5 more days till Halloween. He's like, take it off the air. Take it off the air. Hello. And then it said, we're sorry for technical difficulties. We're having technical difficulties. So they took it off the air. She changes the channel again. Is this commercial on every channel at the same time? Again, now take out time zones. They said at the beginning, it's going to be Halloween and then the Silver Shamrock giveaway. So maybe other channels had other movies and then the Silver Shamrock giveaway. I don't know. But they changed the channel again. Boom, it goes off the air. Then the kid changes the channel again. Now at this point, Dan could have grabbed the mask off of them and thrown it and say, get those masks off. Get the kid away from the TV. He doesn't do that. He lets this child risk their life so he can at least make sure everything's okay. They get to the third channel and he says, take it off the third channel. The third channel is still airing it. What third channel? There's only 3 channels, so 3 channels are. What about the 4th or the 5th? That doesn't make any sense. That's not logical. Again, if this is all over the country, as they claim it is, it's got to be many channels, or it's got to be one channel. It can't be both. It can't be one or. One cable channel that's on countrywide, and cable was not very rampant then. And there was not cable in this gas station. This was an antenna. But he's like, stop it. He goes, stop it. The third channel, stop it. And when he says it the third time, he looks right in the camera and says, stop it. And that's the end. So now I wrote down the final dead body count is 9, because I'm going to say the original Ellie's dead, and maybe millions if the plan worked. But that was kind of the ending, where it was like open-ended, like, did they save them? Did they stop them? How many kids died? I remember it now when I saw it, but for some reason I thought it showed, I had this vision in my head that there was a montage of kids collapsing, and it was like, oh my God, their plan worked. Even though we stopped them, their plan still went through, and, you know, thousands, if not millions of kids were murdered. But we don't know that. We just know of one. We just know of one definite dumb dead kid. This movie, when that ending, when he looks right in the camera, that's when I said, this would have made a perfect 30-minute episode of Twilight Zone. Or you could have made it an hour and cut it to 44 minutes. Now think about what you could have cut out. You could have cut out almost all the beginning. You could have been like, there's a dead guy a guy who died who was carrying this mask. Boom. And the daughter shows up and says, my this mask, he was trying to work, get a deal with this company. Let's check it out. They go and check it out. And then we go right to the scene with the car, and then the bad guys are after them, and then we get kind of right to the plan in the end. I mean, you could definitely have made this a half hour episode from some sort of anthology TV show, and it probably would have been just as effective and better done, because the whole thing of this being all over the country with goddamn time zones just takes away from me, makes it just a stupido to me. Very stupid. And the weird relationship out of nowhere for Dan and this young woman, Ellie, to just be having sex, and then just kind of a gratuitous boob shot for no reason except for let's do it. Just takes away from what should be a scary movie. Focus more on the masks, getting to the kids, and scaring the shit out of kids with the fact that your mask could kill you. That creepy stuff. Like, I think I remember going, Halloween 3, people have really turned around on that. It's become more of a cult classic. And it has, but not because it's a better movie than people remember. I think it's just because there's some enjoyable things in it. And there are. Mostly it's with the family, and the family dying from snakes and masks. That's pretty much about most of the enjoyment is in that scene. That's definitely the best scene in the movie. And the whole weird thing with Ellie being a robot at the end, not quite explained, but who cares? This movie's 41 years old. Whatever happened. Oh, and one thing, I had it pulled up on a tab here. Santa Mira. I was just looking earlier about Santa Mira. I said, is Santa Mira a real town? It's not only is it not a real town, it according to Wikipedia, again, Santa Mira, California is the name of a fictional town in the following movies. Invasion of the Body Snatchers was the first time in 1956. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. E.T. the friggin' Extraterrestrial. That's not the official title. There was Phantoms, a book, the TV show Airwolf, Death of a Cheerleader, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, John Carpenter, A Friend to Die For, First Frontier, The Dark Tower 7, the novel, Ben 10, looks like that's a TV show for kids, Scream of the Banshee, some TV movie, Sharknado 2 and 3 and 4, Femme Fatales, and The Last Sharknado, which I don't think was Sharknado 5, wasn't that 6? So, look, I shouldn't have, there's too many things listed here. The cool things are Invasion of the Body Snatchers and E.T. So I needed to mention that. My friends, it's over. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is over. This is the last Halloween movie where Michael Myers isn't just on in the background. Where Michael Myers isn't just a memory. He isn't some guy who died in a hospital. No, my friends. Next week, next Friday, we get The Return. A movie that I was so excited for as a kid. But I'll talk about that next week. As this week comes to an end, I want to thank you, the listener, for finding the show, for sticking with it, because it seems like if you listen to the first episode, most of you have come back to listen to the second episode. And while most of our listeners seem to be in this country that I live in, the United States of America, there are some listeners out there from I saw, at least according to the analytics on my podcast host, which I use, Anchor, which anyone can use because it's a free tool. It shows that there are listeners out there in the countries of New Zealand and Saudi Arabia. So if you're still out there and still listening, thank you so much. And for all you Americans, yes, thank you too. I truly appreciate it. I am starting from scratch, just kind of trying to build it up. And I hope that you keep coming back week after week as we keep talking horror over and over and over again. So listen, you can find me on Twitter at Geek Mentality, and you can find me on Instagram at Geek Mentality. I hope you give those accounts a listen. The show has its own Twitter account. It's simply /horror. I say it fast and it sounds like I'm saying /horror, which is not what I'm saying. It's /horror. And of course, every episode of Slash, a horror movie podcast, and every episode of every podcast that I work on can be found at fansnotexperts.com. So until next time, my friends, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please tell others to check it out if you don't mind a show where a guy just kind of rambles on to himself about a movie that he watched either 10 minutes ago or last night. As you know, we know last night was when I watched Halloween 3. But please spread the word and tell 3 of your friends and 3 of your enemies. And don't let them know which one they are, because they might think, wait, am I your friend or am I your enemy? After they listen to this, they'll be like, son of a bitch, which one am I? Anyway, that's it from me. I will see you again next Friday. And until then, my friends, remember, it's fun to be scared. Whee!
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Fans not experts.